Okay, guys, so let me just get into this. I saw a post on Facebook, and I'm going to try to do the double screen so you're seeing it right now. But unfortunately, I may just have to go like with just a picture, and you'll just hear the voiceover, and that's okay. You really don't have to see me for this reaction. But in this picture, the caption from the poster, I'm not going to say his name, is "Young men, we got to do better." And as you can see, it's two young black men who have their pants sagging and they're standing in front of the image of their past ancestors who are dressed very immaculately, beautiful suits, the hats, everything. My response in the thread was firstly, quote unquote, firstly, we have to stop acting like a well dressed person can't be even more dangerous and to larger masses of people. As far as the depiction of these young men, posting and the follow up of actually doing something is the only solution if you've agreed or written these youths off as lost. Find your lane to contribute. Now, there are some other people who, they see the sagging pants and totally agree. One person said, "We absolutely do. Our ancestors didn't shed their blood for this nonsense." Let's see, there's another one. Sad, just so very sad. And the place that I'm coming from, one person said it starts at home. Another person said it all begins in the home. Truth of the matter is, many of these young men grew up fatherless. Great point. Some were raised by mothers too young to understand the value of having a male role model or a husband that knew how to lead the family. Not saying it was her fault, but she may also have been the product of a teen mom or a young woman with no moral compass. This, unfortunately, a generational cycle. In those cases, sometimes Big Mama was a 31-year-old. I was just talking, I'm not going to keep going because it sounds like she's starting to drift. But that's a great point. Now, fatherless homes, when we that has a whole that's a whole lot of layers, because a fatherless home can be for a variety of reasons, and in this day and age, we'll just skip past it because I want to stay on point with these two young men. Who's teaching these young men? That's it goes to that lady's point. If it's a fatherless home, but still, there's a whole bunch of people who are willing to hop on Facebook and talk about this as if it wasn't their problem. If we all live in the same society, this is everyone's problem. Now, just because you may not be of the same skin tone, ethnicity, socioeconomical status, any of those things, it's still our problem because, as I understand it, anytime there's racial divide or things like that, somebody will inevitably say, "Well, I thought we were all just Americans." Well, that always seems to apply until something like this comes along. Where are the people willing to sit down with these boys and young women? I don't want to get this misconstrued. This is not just one side of the gender spectrum. There's a lot of young women who are very lost. And according to that lady's point, if you have another child from a teen mom, now you are, again, it's cyclical. That trend continues. So where do we go with this? There's mentorships. There's a lot of things. Is it the judicial system? Do we need to be less harsh, more harsh? What is it? We have to have a building of a better community, between the black community and brown community, a lot of communities, and the police and the judicial system. There has to be more trust. There has to be more leniency, and that doesn't seem to be a thing that's coming. So I know a lot of people say it just feels like it's meant to be this way, and on some levels, maybe it is, but it doesn't mean that we have to just stand by and do and say nothing to young men. The last thing that I said was find your lane, to donate or something to that. Find your lane to contribute. So if you have the extra money to give to something, but you don't have the time, do that. If you have the time but not the extra money, do that. There's so many of these kids, and I've been around them, that just want to sit and talk with somebody. What you're seeing on them and what you're seeing their actions are, these are cries for help. This is a tragedy. I don't think a lot of kids are going out choosing to be this way. The same way that if we look at, I guess, what would be stereotypical behaviors, if you took white children and saw them as cutters, cutting themselves, and certain self harm ideologies and things like that, they need help. Those kids need help just like these kids in the inner cities need help. And we can blame it all on a particular group and say it's their parents, this, that, or the other, but that's not quite the case. And the sooner we take that as an undertaking for ourselves to pass these lessons on, and they're not going to stick with everybody, but then has there ever been a time in history where any demographic of people by nationality, religion, race, anything, where the children listened? There's always going to be cases, but if people don't work with the ones who are willing to listen, now you can talk to them all, and out of 100 kids, I don't know, 60 might listen. And if the 40 don't, then that's the percentage. That's what happens. And sometimes it takes longer for people. It's going to take something life-changing for people, but it doesn't mean that the 100 shouldn't be spoken to. If you know 40 aren't going to listen, still talk. Still talk to the 40, because the 60 are going to have a greater influence as well. And once they hear you, see 60 of their peers and their peer group turning and saying, "Oh, we can do better," then the 40 has a chance to be 20 or maybe even 10. So we have to actually put something out there in order to actually want to see better, rather than just finger pointing and saying that it's somebody else's problem. If we all fall under those same 50 stars and the stripes and that flag and the national anthem, then it's for everybody. It's for everybody to help the next person do better. The same way when we don't when we don't align on socioeconomics, what do? We donate. You donate at Christmas time, you donate food, you donate your time to go make food for the homeless, things like that. And it's the same thing. It's people that are in a circumstance. I don't want to say they're a victim of a circumstance, but a lot of these kids are. But they are in a circumstance that was possibly out of their control. And honestly, I'm not saying we shouldn't have empathy for the homeless, but a lot of these people are adults and they chose what they chose. These kids, or you're talking 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids, they didn't have a chance. They didn't have adulthood to see where they could have done better and chose not to. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the people that are homeless didn't have these problems leading up to it, because they were probably these same 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds that we're seeing, now as homeless, and they had the same problems. And what did we do? We let them slip through the cracks, and that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable for the greatest, quote unquote, the greatest nation in the world. It's unacceptable that we can send billions of dollars to war-torn countries to help them, but we don't have the aid firsthand for the people here who possibly will benefit from it. And there will be those who benefit from it. Just because you think somebody is a lost cause doesn't mean that they are. It speaks more to our collective laziness as a society to write them off and say, nah, yeah, they're not going to listen. You don't know until you speak to them. You don't know until you put the effort in. So where are we really at? Who's really the responsible for this? And let me go back. The dress is the clothes don't make the man. We've always known that. There's a lot of good kids who, they're sagging their pants out of culture and fad and fashion, bandanas, certain colors, certain shoes, things like that. But how many times have we seen somebody in a $2,000 suit, $5,000 suit, however much that suit cost, and they were indicted publicly or prosecuted for scamming the public? And I'm not just going to say the American public. This happens worldwide. There is corruption at a very high level of people who have targeted us for our home loans, for our finances. In a lot of cases, jobs that we work at, these corporations are not paying out the way that they should when people are retiring, getting sick, getting injured, a lot of things. The same people in suits that have not bothered to take care of the soldiers, many of the soldiers that have fought wars to keep this country safe, And now they're retiring and living abroad because they're not getting the aid that they deserve. Same country that is underdiagnosing mental illness, who's not really making an effort towards doing away with the homeless, but we can still build more prisons in order to incarcerate more than the 25%, I believe it is, of the American public. We have no excuses. And again, this is not just for the black community to have to shoulder. Every demographic that is fought out of oppression most likely has benefited and succeeded with the aid and alliance of their counterparts. The women's movement has benefited with the help of men. Civil rights era and all of that had benefited with people who were not black that were helping out. We always have that. There has to be some sort of counterproduction. I don't know that there's a portion of society that just completely lifted themselves out with no help from anyone else. I don't think that that's possible because even and now in this day and age we are so diverse that how could you not? So I'm not going to keep going on, but this is not just for one group of people to have to shoulder. This is not for just these boys or boys like them to have to shoulder whatever choices they're making right now. A lot of these choices are being made out of pain and ignorance. They are hurt for how they grew up, and they are ignorant because nobody taught them. And that's a shame. But it doesn't mean that they're lost. And we know this because we've seen many people have success stories that came from virtually nothing, came from poverty, came back from a violent past that they inflicted on others or was inflicted upon them. It's possible. But it all starts with somebody helping them. And that somebody is you. That somebody is me. Collectively. That's all of us. Let me know what you think. Leave your thumbs down. I won't be mad at you. Or better yet, a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Share the content. And hopefully leave something in the comments. Your ace up the sleeve, advice, comment, experience, so we can talk about this. And possibly other people will get involved, and maybe it's just something like this that sparks that in somebody. Because when I say find your lane to contribute, find what's going to work for you to help contribute to other people. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. And hopefully this finds everybody in a place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity.